Now, when did the issue of national parks become such a political football? There's been some press about this, which would certainly describe it as such. You may have seen a recently heavily supported petition before Victorian Parliament, which opposes state forests becoming national parks. There have also been protests against Great Northern Brewing after that beer brand started a campaign to buy and protect land. In the end, they cancelled their campaign due to customer criticism, and there was quite a big fallout from that. Now, groups said to oppose national parks include four-wheel drivers, shooters, fishers, people who go mineral prospecting, and those who like camping with their dogs.
We know our community very well. We know the Australian culture very well. And because we spend a lot of time out in the bush, we not only know the users, we know the environment very well, and we know what's possibly best for our country.
Okay, some of the opposition to it. But at the same time, the Biodiversity Council has just published research which points to 75% of respondents of the 3,500 people surveyed who want to have more national parks. Jana Dielenberg is here. She's a spokesperson for the council and joins us. Welcome.
Good morning, Tim.
We've talked about some of the recent media and some of the opposition to national parks. So how do we make sense of the council's findings in contrast to some of this?
Well, they're not actually a surprise to us because I think if you talk to your friends, I mean, most people really do support national parks. And as a community, what our survey found was that's 3/4 of people who want more national parks, and they're really the silent majority of Australians, and only 5% of people that oppose the idea of new national parks. And so that's not a very big proportion of the community, but it's certainly enough people to make a lot of noise on social media.
All right. And tell us more about this research you conducted and who was asked about this issue.
Yeah, so we have Monash University's BehaviourWorks Australia conduct social research for us every year, where they ask thousands of people across the Australian community their views on a range of different environmental issues and whether or not they would support certain policy approaches. They use a robust research program that ensures that the people in the survey represent the range of sort of rural and regional and urban spread in Australia, ages, and all those different demographic things according to ABS data, so that we can have confidence that these findings really represent what the community feels and not just what, say, a petition from one group would say, because everyone who is aligned with that idea signs it.
Now, for those who might be opposed to a national park idea, I mentioned some of the groups who have an interest in those who don't want it. Did you find much in the way with that, with political persuasion influencing how they feel about this issue?
Yeah, well, because it's an election year, we looked at, does the support for national parks vary with who people say they usually vote for? And really interestingly, we found that the community is actually pretty united on this, no matter who you vote for. No matter who you vote for, you are at least 6 times more likely to want new national parks than to oppose them. So that was the rate of, say, people who voted for One Nation, who had the lowest levels of support, but it was still 6 times more in support than against. And then it went up with the other parties. If you vote independent, Greens, if you're a swing voter, you were 15 times more likely to want new national parks than to oppose them. And then the Labor Party and the Liberal Party weren't that far behind in terms of those very high levels of support.
Was that surprising to you?
No, I think that inherently lots of Australians value going to national parks. So, I mean, among not that many people in the population as a proportion actually go hunting, but if you want to go out and spend some time in nature with your family, you know, you usually value the toilets, the signage, the accessible walking paths and things that national parks provide. And, you know, Australians make more than 20 million trips to national parks every year, and so they're a real asset. Other research done by the University of Adelaide has also found that those visits to national parks by the community improve their health so much that it makes a massive difference to the cost of the health sector in Australia. So all those trips people are making, they've estimated that it reduces the amount that our hospitals have to spend on our health by $2 billion a year.
All right, Jana Dielenberg is here. She's a spokesperson for the Biodiversity Council here on ABC Sunshine Coast, talking about national parks, the availability we have of them, and what it might look like into the future. Now, you talked about some of the individual opinions, the views people might have, but there's also a national strategy with national parks too, isn't there, to try and achieve a certain quota by 2030. So tell us more about this, Jana, as we try and balance it into the future.
Oh, well, that's right. So Australia has joined hundreds of other countries around the world in setting a target of increasing the amount of land and seas that we have in conservation areas to 30%. And that national commitment has come in response to just this, the loss of biodiversity around the world and the threat that poses to things like our economies, to human health, and to our ability to adapt to climate change. And so in Australia, all the states and territories, as well as the Australian government, have got that commitment, and it will mean that we'll need to increase the amount of conservation land. It's currently at 22%, and we'll need to take that up to 30%, which is about a quarter more national park land than we have got now. So these findings really also should give people in government who need to roll out new national parks the confidence that the bulk of the community will really value that.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
That's Jana Dielenberg here on ABC Sunshine Coast, Biodiversity Council spokesperson, talking about the national parks we have at the moment, what the target is from the federal government, and how people feel